A chaotic Western dining room. A toddler sits in a high chair, face covered in spaghetti, screaming as they fling a red plastic bowl of food onto the floor. The parent, exhausted and clean-up fatigued, reacts with a sharp, emotional no. The toddler throws a cup of milk next. To a Western parent. Mealtime is a daily battleground, a constant test of patience. But what if the way we introduce food is the very thing that is triggering this chaotic behavior? In Japan, you will rarely see a toddler throw their plate at the table. Instead, they participate in a quiet, sensory routine. A practice that starts before the first bite. Letting a toddler eat completely free without throwing their plate is something I personally find almost impossible to practice. The fear of the mess is real, but the science forced me to rethink my own behavior. By the end of this video, you will discover 3 concepts from Japanese parenting that build a calm, independent eater, and how you can apply them tonight. This food-throwing phase is not a discipline problem. It is a sensory and neurological reaction. When a child feels pressured or overwhelmed at the table, their brain enters a defensive state. The fear center of the brain, the amygdala, fires, triggering fight-or-flight energy that often manifests as throwing objects. They are not trying to make you clean. They are struggling with sensory overload. This channel is about one thing: the hidden psychology of your child's world, the science most parenting content skips. Not because Japan is perfect, but because the data keeps pointing to the same thing. According to a landmark 2022 study from the Stanford Center on Adolescence, verified study. Parenting that supports autonomy. Allowing children to manage their own food space without constant correction is directly linked to better emotional regulation. It turns out that doing everything for them or forcing compliance actually disrupts the brain's natural regulatory pathways. But the science of how we change this is where Shokuiku begins. To understand why Japanese toddlers sit so calmly at the table, we have to look at a single word. Shokuiku. Often translated simply as food education, Shokuiku actually means nurturing through food. Here is what I find fascinating. In the West, we often treat mealtime as a chore, a task to get nutrients into a child's body as quickly as possible. But Shokuiku treats food as a sensory curriculum. It teaches a child to engage all 5 senses before eating, looking at colors, touching textures, and smelling aromas. This sensory engagement is critical for brain development. According to a landmark study on household tasks by Marty Rossman at the University of Minnesota, verified study, involving children in daily domestic routines from an early age, like helping prepare the table or washing vegetables, is the strongest predictor of adult self-reliance and academic success. When a Japanese child helps set the table, they build a physical relationship with the meal. They are no longer passive consumers. They are active participants. The research tells the opposite story of what we expect. By allowing toddlers to touch, play, and interact with ingredients before the meal starts, we drastically reduce sensory sensitivity. When a child is not afraid of a texture, they have no biological urge to throw it. In the West, we often keep children away from the kitchen to avoid the mess. Most of us are still doing the opposite at that age, keeping them strapped in high chairs while we serve them passive plates. But this exclusion is exactly what builds the anxiety that leads to throwing. Shokuiku asks us to bring them in. But getting them to the table is only half the story. The second concept is actually the harder one to accept, because it asks you to change something about yourself, not just your child. I will explain in a moment. This brings us to the second concept. Itadakimasu. To Western viewers, it looks strange. To Japanese families, it is just Tuesday. It translates literally to, I humbly receive this life. Before a single grain of rice is touched, everyone at the table clasps their hands, bows slightly, and says this word together. It is a ritual of gratitude, but biologically, it is a neurological switch. When a child sits down, their nervous system is often still running on high energy from play. According to research on sensory regulation from the Harvard Center on the Developing Child, verified study, digestion requires the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest state. If a child eats while their nervous system is in a high alert state, their body cannot digest properly, leading to physical discomfort and behavioral tantrums. The ritual of Itadakimasu acts as a physiological transition. By stopping, clasping hands, and taking a breath, the child's brain signals the amygdala that they are safe. The vagus nerve is activated, slowing the heart rate and preparing the stomach for digestion. In the West, we often rush children straight from play to the plate. We expect them to transition from high energy to calm sitting in 1 second. But the developing brain is not built for sudden transitions. Without a regulatory buffer like Itadakimasu, the transition fails, and the plate gets thrown. And honestly, as a parent, stopping to breathe before serving the food is incredibly hard when we are rushed. But managing our own pace is what allows our children to co-regulate with us. What comes next is not a habit at all. It is closer to a permission slip. Keep watching. Once the meal begins, the focus shifts to independence through okatazuke, the practice of tidying up. In a Japanese preschool, lunch is not a passive service. Children wear tiny aprons and serve the food to their classmates. According to MEXT, cultural artifact, this structured meal curriculum is designed to build motor skills and social responsibility. If a toddler spills their soup, the teacher does not run over to clean it. They hand the child a rag and quietly watch as the child wipes the table. They allow the child to experience the physical consequence of their movement, without shame or anger. This scaffolded autonomy teaches the prefrontal cortex how to control physical actions. The child learns that the plate is their responsibility. When a child owns their space, they protect it, they do not destroy it. But I want to be careful here, and keep things realistic. This routine is demanding. The reality of Japanese Shokuiku places a massive burden on mothers to prepare elaborate, nutritionally balanced meals every single day. The pressure of maiwaku, the absolute rule to never cause inconvenience to others, creates intense anxiety for parents when children misbehave at restaurants. This can lead to severe maternal stress. We must remember that both parenting styles have strengths. You do not need to cook perfect meals or be a perfect parent. If your child throws food occasionally, do not feel guilty. Every family is different. So, how do we apply this tonight? Start small. Implement a 10-second transition buffer before serving the plate. Ask your child to clasp their hands, close their eyes, and say thank you to the food. Give them a small micro-task, like carrying their own plastic cup to the table. And if they make a mess, step back. Hand them a cloth and let them clean it. Let their prefrontal cortex learn through physical action. If this shifted something for you, send it to one parent who needs to hear it tonight. I will see you in the next one.